What's going on, y'all? In this video, I want to compare Wave's Vocal Bender to Soundtoys' Little AlterBoy. Both of these are vocal manipulation plugins that allow you to change and shift the pitch as well as format of a vocal. Little AlterBoy came out in 2015, and Wave's Vocal Bender was released this year in 2021. So hopefully this video will help you decide which is for you or which would work better for you. And I will have a link in the description for both of these. So let's get into this. So first thing we'll do is take both of these, put them at the same settings, and listen to how they sound. I've got a track here from Ambi, and I'm going to solo this vocal. And we'll start with Little AlterBoy first. So what I've got going here is I'm pitched up by 3 semitones, formant is down by 3 semitones, and the wet dry is set to 50. Okay, so first we'll hear Little AlterBoy and then Vocal Blender. Well, actually, what I'll do is because these 4 phrases here, right here, repeat themselves. It's the same thing. So I'm just going to. We'll start with Little AlterBoy, and as the phrase goes to the next one, I'll switch over to Vocal Blender and back to Little AlterBoy. I believe we have enough space in between that'll give me enough time to bypass AlterBoy and get to Vocal Blender and back and forth. So, okay, here we go. Starting with Little AlterBoy.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all on my side.
So that was interesting. So the Vocal Bender sounded smoother to me, and I heard a little bit of modulation going on there. Little AlterBoy, feel like I hear just a hint of distortion, and I've got this drive set all the way counterclockwise to minimum, but it still might be adding just a little bit of harmonics in here, even though it's fully counterclockwise. Let's take a look at another mode here. So you've got 3 modes with Little AlterBoy. You have Transpose, which is kind of your standard mode. You have Quantize, which is going to move it to the nearest chromatic semitone. And then you have Robot, which locks it to a single note, which the Robot is the same as Flatten on the Vocal Bender. So let's take a listen to that now, and I'll flip back and forth the same way I did. We'll start this time with Vocal Bender.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
So same thing I'm hearing with that example. I'm hearing a little bit of modulation on the waves, and the Little AlterBoy just has sounds like it has a little bit of distortion in it. So I haven't set this up or tried to set this up, but I've seen that you can control Little AlterBoy with a MIDI keyboard as far as the notes that it's locking to in the robot mode. With the waves, you can select this drop down and you can select a note from C2 up to B3 that you want it to lock to. So it's a quick example of that. So we were just listening to C3. This is with it at C2.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
And then we heard C3. Let's go up to G3.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
So the higher the note you select there, the higher pitched the effect will be. Okay, let's talk some similarities and differences. So similarities, we both have pitch and formant controls. We both have link controls. We'll point out that the link on the waves, you have to control it from the middle here. So you can click hold this, and then you can move them together. Just clicking link isn't going to link them. And now with the little AlterBoy, if you click link, you can move them together. And okay, and actually, yeah, moving them together is going to match the formant and the pitch. And we both have wet and dry controls here. All right, let's take a look at some differences now. So the vocal bender can do basically transpose and robot. You have drive here, which adds saturation. So let's go to quantize, and let's go to AlterBoy, and let's take a listen to this saturation. I'll just slowly turn this up.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can put our hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can put our hands all down my side.
So you can hear with the drive, you can pretty much drive it into distortion there. And the vocal bender has a fine control where we're looking at semitones right now. If we select this fine, now we get sense, and we can just get in between those semitones, if we need to. Little AlterBoy, you can get in between the semitones with 0.1 increments here. Let's see. Okay, so pitch just moves in semitones, but the formant you can do 0.1 increments on there. Still doesn't seem to be as a fine of control as what you get with the waves. So this feature is what sets Vocal Bender apart to me. If you click this drop down, so we've been looking at what I would say is just the basic view of Vocal Bender, but if we click this drop down, we have options now for modulation 1, modulation 2, amplitude, as well as pitch. And any 4 of these, we can say modulation 1, for example, if I grab this and hold it, I can drag this to the pitch, I can drag it to the formant, I can drag it to the wet and dry. I can also move the modulation 1 into the rate, warp, phase, as well as modulation level here on 1. And that same thing goes for 2. Amplitude, same thing. I can place it on the attack, release, and level as well. And you can see each of these have 4 different uh, spaces where you can drag these effects. So this is really where Vocal Bender sets itself apart. So let's take a look at an example of what you can do with this. Modulation 1, we're going to click and bring over to the pitch. And so you can select this to draw in your own curves here. You can click this to erase it. And this folder is going to give you a bunch of presets here that you can choose. Let's do this one here. And let's turn this on so you can start to see the modulation. So right now we're at a quarter note. I could slow this down to a half note, go down to a bar. I think we can go as low as 8 bars. Yeah, 8 bars is the slowest that we can go here. For right now, let's do a half bar. Now, once I've moved the modulation up to the pitch, I can then click on this M1 control here and bring it up or down. For this, I think I'm going to bring it down. You can see that this purple line, this is starting to show you the range of where this modulation is going to happen from. And looking at this dot, you can see it's starting from up here and going down. So we're going to actually move this down because I want to go down some more. That's good. Okay, let's take a listen to this.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can put our hands all all down my side.
And if we bring the pitch up some, it's just going to start higher and go down.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
Okay, now let's speed it up. So let's go to eighth note here and take a listen to that.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
Okay, now let's, if you right click here, go to none, we can remove that. And let's move it now to the format, and we'll choose a different one. Let's do this. And let's slow that down to a quarter note, and let's take a listen to that. I actually need to make it do something here. There we go. We'll bring the pitch down a little.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side. Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
And you have other options here. You have warp, which is going to change the speed here, even though we have the rate set. Let's take a listen to that.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
And phase is going to move the start point.
Look at me, I'm alive. I can feel your hands all down my side.
Okay, so you see you have a lot of options here with the vocal bender when it gets down to the modulation. So it's kind of wrapping this up. Yes, they both do the same thing. I feel that vocal blender does a little more, and they're not. It's not overly complicated to do the modulation and move over to the amplitude, the pitch. Like this isn't complicated to where you can't just grab it and play with it and find something that you like. Now, which one of these do I recommend? I've been using AlterBoy for years since it came out, and I really love it and still love it. Kind of the biggest difference I see here between the two is that you've got that drive control on the little AlterBoy, which can make for some nice effects. On the vocal blender side, you've got the modulation, which can allow you to get really creative. So no surprise here. I really feel like both of these would be good options. But with this video, maybe you'll decide that the vocal blender is better for you. Maybe you decide AlterBoy. I have both and love both and can see a place for both. So I have last thing to mention, vocal blender does promote itself as being zero latency. It's basically meaning that you can record through it in real time. I couldn't find anything regarding latency on Little AlterBoy's product page or manual. So that's another thing that can set vocal blender apart, is the fact that it is zero latency. The way I would be using it, though, I would just mostly using it to mix. But again, I've got a link in the description for both of these if you want to check them out or learn more about them. All right, any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time. I want to invite you to check out my podcast, the Faders Up Podcast, where we discuss pro audio and beyond. We discuss everything from recording to gear to the music business. So if you're an audio engineer, songwriter, recording artist, music producer, this podcast is for you. We recently started season 2, and we're going to have a lot of listener questions on this season, as well as some really cool guests that's lined up and giveaways as well. So if you've already subscribed and followed the podcast, thank you. If you haven't, it's available on all platforms, and I encourage you to check it out. Also, rate it and review it and let us know what you think.